Friday football feast, Buffalo Wild Wings, Egan tomorrow. The final regular season Friday football feast at Buffalo Wild Wings, Egan tomorrow. Yours truly, Paul Charchian, Alex Lewis from The Athletic and theathletic.com. And also it's expected Ben Lieber will be joining the 9 to noon equation. And we have an individual who joined us during the state fair for the NFC North debate, and Jason Hatch, who loves the Lions as much, if not more, than anybody I've met. Very smart Lions fan too. So he'll be in attendance, giving us the Lions perspective, middle of the radio show. So Buffalo Wild Wings, Egan tomorrow for the Friday football feast. Hopefully some good news about which to chat briefly with the basketball team and the hockey team. One at home against the Seas this evening. The vaunted Boston Celtics, the other on the road to take on Ovechkin. And that circle one-timer on the power play. Ovi, though, H-O-F, that's all this evening. Gophers have a bowl game tomorrow. They take on the Hokies and Virginia Tech. And then over the weekend, the Minnesota Vikings take on the Detroit Lions. And that one is at 7:20 on FM 100.3 KFAN. The pregame show begins at 5 on the radio. And as we go with television, Mike Tirico will be calling the game for NBC's Football Night in America. And Mike joins us now. Excited to see all of you guys Sunday night, Mike. And I say all because I hear in a rarity the entire Football Night in America pregame show will be present for the Vikings-Lions game. I mean, if true, you guys are going all out for this one-seed game, aren't you? And good morning.
Good morning, PA. How's everybody doing back in the Twin Cities? Happy New Year. Yeah, the studio crew's coming on the road, so that'll be fun. Add to it. This is, as I said, going off the air last Sunday night, we've never looked down at the field in the history of the league in a regular season game and seen what we're going to see Sunday night. 2 14-win teams. You know, obviously, 17-game schedule makes it more of a possibility, but by a couple, we've never had more combined wins in a regular season game, and with so much on the line. So you couldn't ask for anything more, so we might as well blow out the budget and get it done the right way.
Fantastic. And then for you guys, that's off a wonderful spine tingler with those rookie quarterbacks on a Sunday night. And, you know, this one's a little different going for the 1 seed. Vikings haven't had it since 98. The Lions have never had it. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Mike Tirico. This is play-by-play immortality with 9 to noon.
Fox.
You live in a Lions-loving household, don't you?
Well, I do live in Michigan. We've lived here for 26 years now. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, my wife grew up a Lions fan. Our kids did. I grew up a Jets fan in New York. So you learn quickly to outgrow things when you get older. But I guess I'm from the Midwest now because I've been here longer than I have any other part of the world. And I love how the Midwest loves its football. It's almost like, you know, the Vikings, the Lions, the Packers, and the Bears, there's such an interconnection with the franchises. Historically, for 6 decades, most of the lives of most of the people who watch these games now. And it just feels like if 2 of the teams are playing or 1 of the teams are playing, it's like a call goes out and the entire NFC North fandom has to come watch, right? There's a real connection and a real feeling, and I love it. I think the fans, while they want to root against the other teams, I think the fan bases respect each other so much, and they're so loyal, and they sit through bad weather and all that stuff. So I just love NFC North football, and we're just lucky the last few years. It has been great, and it's going to be great for the next couple of years, I think, as well.
Yeah, I've low-key been a Lions fan from afar for a couple of decades, and here's why. Really a decade and a half. There are so many Vikings coaches with whom I'm friends who ended up coaching with the Lions, like Darrell Bevel, Scott Linehan, Todd Downing. Their offensive line coach now, Hank Fraley, who does a wonderful, wonderful job. I've known Frank for years, and you know it was easy to like them or you know just kind of have an affinity for them when they never would win. And you would, well, that's not the case now. They've beaten us
exactly.
They've beaten us 4 consecutive since Amon-Ra St. Brown walked off back left of the end zone in 2021. That was their first win in a year, and the first time their fans had seen a victory in like 2 years because of the pandemic. And I kind of felt good for them, even though the Vikings lost. You know what I mean?
And Paul, it's funny. People always say, well, where are you from and who do you root for? Like, I don't root for anybody. Well, how do you not root for anybody? You know who you root for? You root for people who you like to work with, who treat you the right way, who treat the process and the building of a team in a genuine way. They're not BSing you. They go about it through good hard work, and they build something. And that's why you ask our group, if our group often talks about who are a couple of the coaches in the league, like if we could have a table of 5 or 6 for dinner, an off-the-record dinner, who would you want at your table? And a bunch of us on our team always say KOC and Dan Campbell. They're just 2 really likable guys, and you respect the heck out of the way they have put their franchises, their program, their team, 1, the build, but 2, the execution, the game day execution, in different ways, but 2 guys who weren't superstar players, but were players, understand the players' mentality, speak to their guys, and their teams reflect them on the field. So as you look at it, these are 2 of the teams that absolutely deserve this spotlight to almost kind of launch us into the playoffs. And let me just say this, Paul, up front. Well, there's a lot on the line, a ton on the line. It's easier to win 2 home playoff games than it is to go on the road. The loser of this game is by no means out of the contention for the Super Bowl. Heck, the Vikings lost the 1 game on a Thursday night when Darisaw went down in L.A., and the Lions didn't lose all season on the road. These teams have been great on the road, as good as anybody in the league. So this is not a ultimate decider for your shot at the Super Bowl with what happens on Sunday night.
Mike, more Vikings-Lions in a second. What I referenced it earlier. What did you think of Pennick Jr. and Jaden Daniels last Sunday? And it seems FedEx Field has come back to life.
It totally has. So much so that they've renamed it. It's now Northwest Stadium.
Oh.
So where's the state of Washington in the Northwest? So where do the Washington Commanders play? In Northwest Stadium, right? I had to look down like 3 times to make sure I didn't screw it up during the game. Yeah, you know what, Paul? It is. Like, the place was on their feet from mid-third quarter right through the end of the game. It was super loud, that last quarter, those defensive stands, those stops. There is an energy back in the entire franchise from Josh Harris, who owns the Sixers and the Devils in the NBA and the NHL. He's taken over. They've brought everything back. They're putting money into a stadium that they're not going to be in 5 years. That tells you how they are really just trying to make sure this franchise is handled in a first-class manner. Dan Quinn's terrific, and the quarterbacks were both good. They were good in our meetings. They were good in the game. They were good in crunch time going up and down the field at the end of the game. Michael Penix Jr., first road start, second start overall, got his team into the end zone, tied the game, never touched the ball in overtime, which is the dumbest rule, I think, in sports. But Jaden Daniels, just like he did 4 times before, threw a touchdown late in the game or overtime to win. They're both good. I think in the NFC, we've got some really good football ahead with a bunch of young, talented quarterbacks. Those 2 right at the top of the list. And who knows when JJ's turn will be, but I know how much the people in the building in Minnesota believe in him as well. Now,
Mike Tirico, 9 to noon, a couple of quickies to close here. Sunday night does, simplistically speaking, but maybe you feel differently. Does this game have to be reminiscent of a shootout, say at the OK Corral, or can a full-strength Vikings defense become the A topic in the game?
I think that's the deciding factor in that. Detroit has been very opportunistic on defense. It'll be red zone. Can they keep the Vikings to field goals, not touchdowns, force a mistake or 2 in a big spot to keep the game close? The Detroit offense has walked up and down the field on a lot of folks lately, and I think it's going to be up to the Minnesota defense to stop the number 1 scoring team in the league. That's the one place where this game can tilt. Do I see the Lions defense stopping Minnesota? Probably not. Limiting, yes. Stopping, no. I think the Vikings are going to have good yardage in the game, as they usually do. But you look at the recent history, these games have been in the 20s, in the 30s. And Detroit's defense is as injury compromised as any good team I've seen in my 20 years of doing this. I mean, you talk, do teams get injuries? Yes. Do teams get a lot of injuries? Yes. They're usually 5-12, right? They're not 14-2 going into the last game. But the one unit that, from a health position is pretty good, from an execution and performance is pretty good, is the Minnesota defense. And that's the group that can spin this game around. Turnover in every game this year. They get a couple of turnovers, short fields and score. That changes this game.
You and I have chatted a bunch off the microphone. I've never asked you this question. I've been a racetrack announcer for 3 decades. How did you end up as NBC's voice of the Triple Crown? I mean, I never knew you were a fan of the equine athlete.
I enjoyed it. I love that term, right? We use that term, people laugh like, hey, wait, you spend time around the horses, you start to understand it a little bit. You know what, Paul? I grew up in New York, and my family would go to the track or watch the track, OTB and all that stuff. So I was around it just in terms of that regard, and then had never done it at ESPN for my 25 years. Obviously, the Derby contract wasn't with us. ABC had it for a while. I wasn't working at ABC at the time. And I've always had this great fascination and wanted to go to the Derby. Well, there was a role, it was one of the roles that Bob Costas had. And as Bob kind of moved over, Tom Hammond, who was terrific in doing this for many, many years, has been honored with Eclipse Awards. Tom stepped aside from hosting on a full-time basis, and they said, do you want to do it? And I said, I'll give it a try.
That's
sure.
Awesome. Man,
have I fallen in love with it. Getting up close to the horses that week, being around the prep races, the people in the sport. I'd be lost without it right now. And I love kind of, it's January 1st. The new crop of 3-year-olds now hitting the track as 3-year-olds for the first time, right? Because every horse's birthday is Jan 1. Yep. It's the way they do it for the math purpose. So I love it. If folks haven't been to the Derby, make sure it's on your bucket list because it's as special as it gets. A+. Lastly, Vikings-Lions. In preparing for a Lions game call, Mike, is one prepared to memorize every trick play ever run? I mean, that they dusted off the stumble bum a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. How about that, right, Paul? You know what it does, and I'm sure you know this too. I mean, it really makes you stay hyper-focused on all situations, field goals, punts, offensively, the way they do things. Usually, if you call 1,000 plays during the year, they mostly look the same. The Lions have the ability to give you a wrinkle, and that keeps you as a play-by-play man on your toes and hyper-focused on the ball, the guys, who's around. They'll do anything at any time. So not only does it neutralize defenses at times, I think it kind of keeps us just on our toes when we're calling the game. But, hey, it's fun. I think there's a fun element. That's why this team is likable. And with the Vikings, there's that energized element of the quarterback and the story, and that's been the way the last 3 years with KOC. And I just think it brings people to the table. I expect a massive audience, a great showcase. If it can't be at U.S. Bank, which I have said is my favorite place to call NFL games now, it's going to be another great venue with a great atmosphere. So, man, are we lucky. What a great way to start the year. Amen. Fox. A+. Thank you, Mike. See you on the field Sunday night. See you, PA. Be well, buddy. See you, bud. Mike Tirico is one of the best in the history of play-by-play, and he'll be calling the Vikings and Lions on NBC Sunday night at 7:20. Vikes Bites around the corner. Don't leave.
Vikes Bites.
Welcome back, 9 to noon, final hour. It's awesome having Tirico on. That's sweet. Love Tirico's work on TV, Vikings and Lions. You can watch them on NBC and also listen to them here on your home for Vikings football, The Fan. Vikes Bites is brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. Beefy, beefy, beefy. And you can shop online. A box of meat will show up at your doorstep. You can go to your local Coborns, your local co-ops locations. They are a Clearwater, Minnesota company. Matt and everybody there do terrific work. And of course, they're proud sponsors, Gophers Athletics. Got a bowl game, mañana. How about that? Duke's Mayo Bowl for the Gophers. So we're pumping it up there, but sticking to the purple today. Head coach Kevin O'Connell addressing the media yesterday. Here's what he said on watching Lions-Niners. Just doing a little scouting in advance of Sunday night's finale.
I thought it was an incredibly physical game, to both teams' philosophical beliefs of how they want to play it. It was physical, and I thought, looking at it in the second half, it was a classic game where the Lions are playing really well, and then a couple turnovers happen, and they're able to distance themselves, and that formula's played over a lot.
They haven't had as many takes as the Vikings in 2024 PA, but I remember during the first matchup, and it's played out in several games. I think it was did Kirby Joseph have 2 picks in that game? Did he have both of them?
I believe so.
And that's 8 or 9 this year by Kirby. So
yes, sir.
If he's not actually just diving low on a tight end that we love, he's actually making pretty sweet plays. Branch gets trucked by Kittle in that game. But they haven't been getting as many turnovers in recent weeks as the Vikings have. It was a huge talker into the first matchup. You think in terms of him viewing that game and looking forward to Sunday, that it's a big talker about, obviously you don't want to give the ball away, but managing that margin and looking for that big moment, that's got to be something on the minds of Kevin O'Connell and many inside the building in Eagan.
Turnovers,
finding those moments, yeah.
Turnovers is the A topic of all A topics ever to A topic into this game. And that's not from me. That's from those with whom I've chatted the last couple of days. Tuesday for the SouCup.com show with KO. And then yesterday, I got there super early, started the game calling depth chart, taking KO's press conference, chat a little bit. It's low hanging because turnovers change the outcome of about 68% of games. But if you turn it over at the wrong time of the game, on the wrong spot on the field in this game, and that fan base, it's Motor City go crazy. The Ford Field now, back in, I think it was 2002. My first year calling Vikings games, that was the first year of Ford Field. So, we're looking at, 23 years now, and the fans, Detroit is a high-end, prideful fan base with a bunch of pro sports teams, Ann Arbor, Michigan State, the whole thing with the football. And when they have a good team, man, they're as loud, wild, rowdy, and nasty as anybody in the National Football League. And I've seen it, when that wave, I haven't seen it a lot, over 23 years, but I've seen it a lot over the last 2 or 3 years. When that wave of vociferous fans starts to jump you, it's awful. Yeah. It's really, really difficult. So it's like, say you're moving, you get down to the 28, you're up by 2, down by 2, 6 minutes to go in the game, and you have a turnover. And at that stage of the game, at that part of the field, the crowd just jumps you. So turnovers, major A topic in this game.
And Kevin O'Connell talking about specifically playing in Detroit.
Our team's been, really it's just been us in many ways since the beginning of this thing. So I don't think we'll feel uncomfortable, albeit in probably a great home environment for them, atmosphere, expecting a lot of noise. But we've been kind of operating as a team and coaching staff all season long. Not going to be much different for us.
As important as it was for Kevin O'Connell to have a better year this season at home, how do you think ultimately that he has focused his guys away from U.S. Bank Stadium this season?
It's a good question because they have that 3 in a row on the road, and it played into when they got back. And I asked O'Connell, and I did a player interview and asked that, and I couldn't get anybody to bite into it with me, probably because I wasn't explaining it the right way. But when you're on the road for a month, and here's how I put it. You come out of that tunnel and everybody hates you. Now, there may be 10% of the crowd wearing purple and gold, but that's still 13,000 out of 60-something.
Yeah.
They hate you, they're yelling at you, and they're against you, specifically at Soldier Field. And then you come back, and now you got to kind of muster some type of energy early in the game if it's a little slow. That's just how it goes. This night is not that. There's none of it that's that. So it's going to be, it has to be eye-opening for a bunch of players, but Sam Darnold specifically. Sam Darnold has never faced a situation like this in his life.
Right.
Period. In his professional life, he's never seen, heard, or experienced, really anything like this. So that's new to him, but you got to take that step. I'm not going to share who the referee is. I don't even have it in front of me now. Very happy with the officiating situation for Sunday night. You know why? Because the individual, and this is something that I share at the beginning of each broadcast.
Yeah,
it's like the referee is Eric Nordquist.
Here are some trends, right?
He and his staff call the most penalties of all the 17 crews. They're number 1 in defensive holding, number 2 in offensive holding, number 3 in unsportsmanlike conduct. Or you get the other side, where they call the fewest, like the one we just had last game.
Yeah.
This one's right in the middle. This referee, and I'd like to share it. I mean, maybe I can, but I just don't know if I can share it on a Thursday. It's this staff, super well respected. The referee, I've always really respected for the way he handles games. He's right in the middle.
I thought Bernie Kukar retired.
Always right in the middle with the old penalty calls. I will tell you this. Let me share this.
Well, I know the Vikings lead the league in net plus. I mean, they're plus 29. The penalties for a team, whether it was, Bakhtiari has never not started early on an Aaron Rodgers snap. I would say this year, a lot of things, luck or just the litigious nature of reffing has really fallen in the Vikings' favor this year.
The thanks for the pad there. 6 most penalties called by this staff, 14 a game. 10th with offensive holding, number 1 with offensive pass. Here's the bit, okay?
Yep.
I should save this for Sunday, but I'm not. I think this favors the Vikings given the defensive health of both teams.
Yeah.
Or maybe because Detroit throws a lot and throws it well, maybe he's as a detractor. The staff we have Sunday night calls the most offensive pass interference and the most defensive pass interference of all crews in the NFL. Just keep that in mind, all right?
So that helps potentially in the pick and rub game for certain teams that like to throw short and get their guys running.
Right.
That also potentially helps out a certain team that doesn't have a rookie corner that has been incredibly handsy over the course of his debut season.
You're seeing it clearly.
And therefore, on both sides of that conversation, the purple might be advantageous. And that's nice news.
And I'll leave you with this. The umpire actually has a private business called Blind Zebra. Are you kidding me? How can you be an official in the National Football League and start a business and call it Blind Zebra?
We should try to have him on because it sounds like he gets the bit, though. I mean, he plays into the bit.
Yes.
And so we got a refereeing crew that gets it, and I like that. Now, one more from KO, and then I got something from Mr. Darnold here. Differences from the first meeting. Of course, they play him twice a year. Lost a nail-biter earlier this season at U.S. Bank Stadium. What are some differences?
Both teams are very different, and that's what happens regardless of wins, losses, injuries. The journey of a season, you're a new team almost every week, it feels like, in some capacity. And you just get to week 18, game 17. Both teams kind of know who they are. Both teams kind of know how they want to play, and then it comes down to all these really little details.
Yeah, the minutia will decide this one. And kind of as we were talking about earlier this week, I believe it was with Ben Gessling, is kind of where I was coming from, is in the end, we're going to hyperventilate over the little stuff, and I think we absolutely should. But as these teams dial it in, you know what they're going to do. They know what we're going to do. And what got us to 14 wins is going to be the quarterback. You'll hear from him momentarily. What got us there is this opportunistic defense and all the turnovers and the highlight play of a Jordan Addison and a Justin Jefferson. So it's like we know each other so well.
Yep.
It's going to come, like you said, turnovers, the atopic of atopics. And maybe it'll be moments where, I'm already getting guesses on the text line as to who the ref's going to be. So whoever it is, it's going to be moments like that. It's going to be the minutia that really defines Sunday night.
The Lions, in the early stages of the game, are going to attempt to turn this into a street fight.
Yeah.
Because home teams generally get more calls than road teams, specifically in situations like this. So there are certain players for their team, mostly offensively, a couple defensively. They're going to try to bait you into something to get those free penalties, to try to start a little fight, try to get somebody thrown out of the game. They're going to try to, they're a very physical team. The Vikings are very physical too. So it's this is just fantastic. Are you kidding me with this game?
Vikes Bites!
I can't stop thinking about it. I got to stop thinking about it. It's only Thursday.
Thank you, Thousand Hills. There's no way you can avoid thinking about it. We were joking on Monday. It's like we're already taking deep breaths, and you got Florio tweaking all of us with some incredible proclamations when he joined you. And you can't help it. You just can't help it. This is so good. When's the last Vikings regular season game that had this much at stake?
It's unique.
And it's against a team. Again, we can hate the Packers. We can rip the Packers and all of that. It's all respect in the end, but we talk a ton of trash. The Kitties, they're so likable.
Yeah.
And they're a super awesome team. And
their quarterback doesn't throw off his back foot.
Yeah, correct. So there are so many things to love into Sunday. You can't help it. Sam Darnold, here he was with the media. First, just kind of summing up his season thus far.
I'll say this: it's fun. It's fun playing football for this team, for this group, for this organization, for the guys in there in this locker room, and that's really all it is. Just having a ton of fun playing football right now. But again, whatever happened last week and the week before that, it doesn't matter right now. All that matters is this game, this opportunity, and that's all I'm thinking about.
Don't think you're crafty. With the Finch replay coming up and the move I just made, and you looking up at the Laron, what's the Laron? Well, it's the Prophet. You think you're going to hit me with, okay, well, you have a Timber Tech, a Sioux Cup, an Early Bird, a AAA, a My Movers, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
A Hammer coming up.
You got 6 spots this break.
That ain't the case.
Last thing for you is Darnold talking about Sunday Night Football, because you nailed it. He hasn't been in a position like this really in his pro career.
I think the biggest thing is just being able to sleep in a little bit on Sunday.
Okay.
But again, with sleeping in, I'll probably stay up a little bit later on Saturday. Don't want to get too much sleep. So just little things like that. Maybe take a nap in the middle of the day.
So there's little things
whole
that
you got to prepare
just stop him.
But yeah, for me, it's really just because we've had a Sunday night game against the Colts, so pretty much just going to keep the same routine that I had that week.
He just described, so he's playing Sunday Night Football. He's thinking about staying up a little bit later on Saturday, sleeping in on Sunday, maybe take a nap in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
That's like my wife and kids being gone for the day. He's about to play the greatest regular season game of his career.
Going to order food to his room. What you going to get? Probably just a Haggis.
Yeah, probably just do a Haggis, a couple of beverages after lunch, we'll Netflix and chill a little bit.
Well, there are some things that happen with the Vikings when they have a night game. With some things that take place Saturday night, like right when we get there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That get moved to the next day when you have a night game. That's not the case this year. Not to get you too deep into operations, but I think O'Connell is very, very dialed in with keeping things time-wise.
Yeah.
Here's where chapel goes. Here's where mass goes. Here's where this meal goes. Here's where this goes.
It's a science.
That's all the same.
We saw that with London the first time. We saw how this coaching staff handles all of it. It's going to be awesome on Sunday night.
Great job with the Vikes Bites, courtesy of
Thousand Hills Lifetime Graze Grass-Fed Beef.
Beefy. If you missed Finchy out of the gate, we're going to replay it after this on KFAN.